Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to Shippo 101. My name is Sonia Liu, and I'm a marketing manager here at Shippo. I'll be the moderator today. I'd like to touch on a few housekeeping items before we get started. We will be answering questions at the end of the webinar, so please submit your questions through the webinar questions bar here. Please note that we will only be answering questions submitted during the webinar today. The webinar is being recorded. We'll be sending all registrants a link to the recording in the next 2 to 3 business days. Before we get started, I'd like to update everyone on our next webinar, Getting Ready for the Holidays, on October 19th. We'll be discussing important metrics to monitor, carrier dates to watch out for, returns, insurance, and more. So definitely watch out for an invite to that. With that, I'd like to introduce our speaker today. Speaking today will be Andrew Horwitz. He's our lead account manager here at Shippo. Go ahead and take it away, Andrew.
Hi everyone, I'm Andrew. I head up our account management team here at Shippo. I work really closely with our customers from everything to getting them started, launching, and general maintenance, and really excited to be here. And thanks everyone so much for joining. So today I'll be demonstrating how you can configure and utilize all the powerful features that we built on Shippo's platform and answer some of the questions you may have. First, we prepared an in-depth Shippo product demo where we'll show you how to do a couple things. First and foremost, we want to show you how to configure your Shippo account so you're ready to print labels, add carriers, really support your business that way. And additionally, I want to show you how to print your first Shippo label, as well as how to create a return label, batch print and fulfill orders, and also create international shipments. So let's dive right into the app. Great. All right, so right now you are looking at the Orders tab. This is the first page that you'll see once you land inside the Shippo app. Depending upon where you signed up for Shippo from, maybe it's eBay, Shopify, Weebly, or any of the number of store connections that we have, the experience may be slightly different, but this is really where you'll see all your orders that you need to fulfill, and it's kind of the heart of the app. And it shows you all relevant information that we've imported from your shopping cart. However, you can also manually create orders, as you can see in the top right corner. And we also have the ability to allow you to create a CSV file and then batch upload your orders that way. So you really have a lot of options depending upon how you want to fulfill your orders, where your orders are coming from, and really how you decide to use Shippo. So I'm going to show you how to configure your account first today, and this will help you customize your own shipping experience depending upon the needs that you have. So starting in the orders page, you can filter for different labels based on dates, keywords, and order numbers. So if you click right here, if you want to look at a particular time frame, maybe you want to look at just September, or maybe you even just want to look at today. It really depends on your volume. So you add your start date here and the end date as well. And then that way the app will filter to only show you orders that were imported for those specific days. Additionally, if you want to change the number of orders that you're able to view per page, you click right here. And if you want to adjust what the status of the orders, you can also do that right here. We also give you the ability to hide orders. So say, for example, you imported some orders or you created some orders that you ended up not needing, or you just don't want them to show for whatever reason, maybe they're not relevant, then you can hide them. However, if you want to show those hidden orders, you can just click this button right here. And so the next part that I wanted to just kind of want to walk you through all the different tabs so you have a good overview of how our user interface works, and then we'll dig into more of the details. So the next section is our carriers account section. And one of the big values that you get from Shippo is, one, that we give you accounts that you can ship on right from the get-go. So you don't need to input any type of USPS account. You already have Shippo's master account showing right here. So with this account, you get access to USPS preferential rates right from the get-go. You don't need to do any setup. You just need to add a payment method, and then you're good to go. We also give you a DHL Express master account as well. And this is a great way to ship with US origin, international destination shipments. So maybe you predominantly do domestic business, but you do a bit of selling outside the US as well. This is a great way to be able to access kind of a higher service level through DHL Express. And again, there's no setup needed on your end. Additionally, beyond the master accounts that we have, beyond the master accounts that we give you, you have the ability to add your own carrier accounts. So all you do is you click on this add carrier account right here, and you can see a whole list of carriers that we have that we support. So each carrier is going to be a little bit different in terms of the requirements that they have. Sometimes you need an account ID, a password. It really depends on the actual carrier that you're trying to integrate. For example, UPS, we have two types of integrations there. So you can do a lightweight integration that you need about 3 or 4 fields, or if you go through the full UPS registration, that's the way that you would get your negotiated rates. But for the most part, if a carrier supports receiving negotiated rates via the connection that we have with them, when you make a shipment and we return rates back, you should see your negotiated rates there. Great. And so this is just where you add them, you click the drop down and then go through the steps. When they're successfully added, they'll show up right here and you'll see your full list of either master accounts that Shippo provides for you straight out of the box, or you'll also see the accounts that you added. The other functionality right here is it shows you the status. So in this case, you can see that our USPS account is active, but the Deutsche Post account, which is a regional carrier within Germany, it's a national carrier there, kind of similar to the USPS, but based in Germany, it's currently set in test mode. So if you want to adjust if something's in test or active, you do it right with this edit button. And the benefit of test mode is that you're able to create labels that you won't be charged for. So maybe you want to do some testing, see if your account's set up properly, then you can put it into test mode, but make sure to put it back into live mode if you want to purchase labels. The next section that I want to go through is the connect section. And so the connect section is where you'll see the different e-commerce platforms or shopping carts that you have integrated. So we work with a lot of the big players in the space. So as you can see, we have Shopify, GoDaddy, Magento, BigCommerce, Etsy, just to name a few. And then right now you can see that the only store that's currently connected for this demo is eBay. And you can see the status, and then you can also click to go to eBay. So this is how you're going to be pulling your orders in from your e-commerce stores into Shippo. So it's really important if you work with multiple stores to have them all connected here. And this way you can fulfill your orders from multiple stores all in one place. So you don't need to be going to all of different applications or using different interfaces to fulfill these orders. That's one of the value adds that we provide. You can do it all through one spot. So you're not having to really have all of these different flows. The whole point is really to simplify this so that you have a one-stop shop to support your e-commerce businesses. Next section is the billing section, and pretty simple and self-explanatory, but here is where you manage your payment methods. So the payment methods that we currently offer are credit card, PayPal, and then additionally we can support ACH payments if you want us to pull the payment from your checking account. And if you want to do that, you can reach out to our support team and just mention ACH setup in the subject line. So we'll be going through how to contact our support team towards the end of this, but that's how you do it. Additionally, the next thing that you can see here is unbilled transactions. So really quickly, I just wanted to go through our billing process, and we've tried to really simplify it so that you're not getting charged every day or every hour, and so that it's really a streamlined process. So we have a threshold-based invoicing process. So for your first invoice, right when you sign up for Shippo, you will be billed after you've incurred $25 in label purchases, or after 7 days, whichever comes first. So depending upon what types of labels you're purchasing, that'll adjust how you're accruing your bills. So for example, if you're purchasing on one of our master accounts, for example, DHL Express or USPS, we'll be billing you directly for the actual cost of the postage. However, if you're being billed if you're purchasing UPS or FedEx labels, for example, will only be billing you for the per label fee, and UPS or FedEx or whatever other carrier you're using will bill you directly to that account. And so if it's before you've hit that threshold, or it's before the 7-day mark, then you can see all of your unbilled transactions right at this link. And then additionally, once you are billed, then an invoice is generated because you've either, one, you've spent more than your billing threshold, or two, it's been more than 7 days. You can see the invoices that are generated. So here there's an invoice number. You can click on the download link. You can see how much the invoice was for, and you can also see the status if it's paid. On the invoices, you can see the tracking number, the relevant carrier, and the cost of that postage. So additionally, just wanted to mention that after that first invoice, so the threshold is $25, and then after you pay that invoice, it jumps up to $100. So if you're doing a lot of volume and you're spending a good amount of postage and you're getting billed too frequently, our team is more than happy to adjust this billing threshold. It's not a one-size-fits-all sort of thing. So we often proactively adjust this so you're not getting constant invoices. But again, if you feel like you're being invoiced too frequently, you can definitely reach out to us. So the next tab that I wanted to go through in the Shippo dashboard is the settings section. So we offer multiple different types of label formats, and it really depends on the type of printer you're using. So you can see right here in the default label format that we have 8.5 by 11 PDF, PDF 4 by 6. We've recently added a new type 4 by 8, and then we also have PNG and ZPL. So it really depends on what type of printer you're using. You can see right here for like a standard printer, 8.5 by 11 is gonna work great. If maybe you have a Dymo a thermal label printer, you can use the 4 by 6. And some of those also support PNGs. And then if you're doing a lot of volume and you have a ZPL printer or a Zebra printer, the ZPL2 image format's gonna work great for you. Next option you have to add is this add text on label. So a lot of our carriers, for example, UPS, USPS, FedEx, DHL, they all support reference text on your labels. So maybe you have a specific store or a specific company or brand that you want to show up on every label. You can add that here. And also if you're importing your orders from like a Shopify store or eBay store, and you have an associated order number that you want to be included on that label, so that maybe the person who's pick packing or the person who's fulfilling the order and grabbing the actual items to go in the package can match up that order number to some sort of slip they have on their end. You just click right here and it'll automatically print the order number on every label that you generate when there is an associated order number. One thing I wanted to point out is that this reference text on labels is not supported by every single carrier. And so it'll show up on the label where the carrier actually supports it. The other option that you have right here is to auto create return labels for outbound shipments. So the use case here would be if you want to have a return label in every single package that you're sending out. So if you want to make it really easy for your customers to send you back returns, you want to make it really streamlined, you can put that return label into the package. For a lot of carriers, USPS, UPS, FedEx, as examples, these labels are going to be scan-based. And so you're only going to be charged when the customer actually uses that return label and has that initial scan from the carrier. The final section right here that I wanted to show you is the package templates. And so package templates are a great way to save you some time if you're shipping out like the same type of package all the time. Or for example, maybe you have 3 sizes of boxes that you use and you know you're only going to go use those 3 sizes. So maybe it's you call it a small box, medium box, large box. You can input the dimensions if you know they're always going to be the same. And you can also put the weight if you know the weight's always going to be the same. So maybe you have a limited amount of inventory and you only sell the same 3 types of items. And then this way, when you're actually generating the label, you don't need to be inputting dimensions and weight one by one each time. You can just select that package template from the dropdown. Additionally, this final step is if say 90% of your packages are all going to be the same, you can do set as default package for label purchase. This can be changed at any time. But again, the goal here is to streamline the label generation process and really save you some time so you can focus elsewhere. Next section is our API section. I'll go through this quickly, but the big thing to know here is that if you're a larger business doing a lot of volume, or if you're a developer, or you have access to developer resources, we also have an API that can allow you to create custom shipping workflows. And so we're actually having an API 101 webinar with our developer evangelist next week at the same time. So if you're a developer or you're just interested in this and you'd like to learn more about Shippo's API, definitely feel free to join that. Other thing here is that you can add webhooks. Webhooks are a way of tracking label creation and label updates or shipment updates as a shipment goes from its origin to destination. So we can automatically push these updates to you. Again, this requires development resources and is usually more often used for higher volume shippers, but webhooks are a great option too if you want to have more control and more visibility into the shipping process and really the tracking of your items. So the next section is account. Here's where you can set the return address or basically the address from that gets shipped out and on your packages. If, for example, you have a different return address, you can also set that here. So the return address would be set if, for example, you ship out of a warehouse or maybe you ship out of your house, but you have another company handle your returns that has a different return address. And this way, when you create your shipment, the price will be, the price of the label will be from where the package is actually going from to that destination address. But when you have that return label, it'll be going from the customer's address or the person you shipped it to that different return address. So when carriers support this, with that return label, we'll show you the correct return address on there. Right here, you can see that there's a link to the Help Center. So this is a great resource if you have specific questions about Shippo that, that you can't be answered, or you have just shipping questions in general and you want to see a resource right here. We are constantly building this out. Really, the goal is to provide as much information for you. And so this is a great first stop if you have questions about Shippo. Obviously, we have our support team that's ready and willing for any questions you have, but you might very well find answers to your questions about Shippo, shipping, specific carriers right at the Help Center. Great, so the next part that I wanted to, or the next functionality that I wanted to show you is how to create a single label. So we would go to your Orders tab, and so a few options here, as I mentioned. On the Orders tab, if you have orders being imported from your e-commerce store, then you can just click Create Label right here. You can see if the label has been paid for, you can see the fulfillment status. So when an order has already been fulfilled, it's gonna go from the button right here under label is gonna go from green to blue. This is a great, easy visual way for you to see if the order has already been fulfilled or not. If it hasn't been fulfilled, then it means that a label hasn't been generated. Also, if you want to create a manual order, you can click Create Order right here. And again, as I mentioned, if you need to import a CSV, so maybe you have orders coming from other spots that aren't automatically imported through a shopping cart, then you can do that through this Import CSV. But yep, I want to walk you through that create a label flow for, let's just pick this top order right here. So here's step one of the label generation process. So right here is really all the information that the carrier needs to actually rate the label, rate the shipment and know what are the eligible service levels, how much the service cost. So if you're importing your order and you're not manually creating an order, then we'll import the information that we received from the e-commerce platform. So for example, this is an eBay order. This is what we received when we imported the order. So maybe you realize that, oh, the packaging is actually larger than this or smaller. So you can adjust dimensions as necessary. You can change the unit of measure. You can also change the weight of measure as well. So also this is where the package template comes into play. If you're only using, say, that small, medium, and large option, you can just click it in this drop down and then the dimensions and or weight will populate accordingly. If, for example, you like to prepare your orders in advance, but you don't ship out the same day or the next day, then you can set this shipment date right here. So the shipment date can go 7 days into the future. And the use case here is, say that you receive orders maybe you receive all of your orders over the weekend or on a Monday, and you plan for the week, but you know that you're not going to be able to get to the post office until like Tuesday or Wednesday. You can set that shipment date to the day that you know you're going to ship out the package. Here is where you can add additional insurance. So we partner with a third-party insurance provider named Shipsurance. What we found is that this Shipsurance offers cheaper rates and a faster claims process, so you can get your money faster. So that's right here. And something I wanted to note is that Shipsurance costs 1% of the insured shipment value. So if you want to insure a parcel for $100, it's only going to cost you $1. So we have detailed information and instructions about insurance and the full claims process in our help center, and also our support team is able to help here too. So the additional features that you can see in checkmark boxes are the ability to add signature confirmation to the order or to the shipment. So this is when the carrier actually supports it. Please note, signature confirmation may and often is an extra charge. So you'll see that within the rate in the next step. You can also denote if it's a residential recipient versus a commercial address. And the difference here is that some carriers will charge a residential upcharge. For example, I know FedEx and UPS often have those charges associated. And then additionally, if you want to add a return label to the process at the end, Shippo will automatically flip the sender and the recipient address. So on the right side, you can see all the order info that we imported. You can also see the to and from address or the recipient sender address, make sure it all looks good, and then move on to the next step, which is where we get rates. Great, so right here, you can see that the account that we have, the carrier accounts that we have currently set up for this are USPS and UPS. On this, on this step, this select shipping rate, you're going to get all eligible rates based on the shipment. So as I mentioned, we give you a DHL Express account off right off the bat, right when you sign up for Shippo. However, it's only eligible for US origin to international destination shipments. That's why there's no DHL Express rates here. So here you can see that there's both UPS and FedEx, and you can see all the different rates. You can do some rate shopping. Depending upon the carriers, it may either be all in one right here or broken out into separate tabs. And this is just based on agreements that we have with our carriers. Some of them are more specific about the requirements that they have. So looking at our options, I'm going to choose this priority mail label, click by label, and there you go. One click and you have the label. So right here, you have multiple options. You can click download the label right now. You can also download a packing slip, or you can also send a notification to the customer. This will send an email to them if you've provided the recipient's email address. This is what the label looks like. It's an 8.5 by 11. This would print on a standard printer that you would print a letter on, or that you'd often have at your house. Okay, so I did want to pause right now because I know that there's been a lot of questions. So just wanted to go through some of these questions. So I got a question about, I'll just read the question out to everyone. Hi, I'm starting a business in the UK, but it seems to me that you guys mainly focus on the US market. Shipping insurance is only supported for US originating parcels. Is my understanding correct? So that is true that we started in the US. So we did start in the US, and that's where we kind of focused from the get-go. However, we are really focused on international expansion and supporting our customers around the world. So while we do have a lot of US carriers, we do offer other UK carriers like Parcel Force. We work with Hermes UK as well. We are integrating some other carriers too. So for example, I know that both UPS and FedEx would support shipments in the UK. If there's specific carriers that you're interested in, we would love to hear your feedback. We are, as I mentioned, we are working and speccing out some other carriers. Some other ones that are interesting to us include DPD UK, for example. So that's another one in the US. And so international is a huge focus for us. We're really not only focused on the US market. We want to support our customers regardless of where they're based. So the question, I received a question around negotiated rates for USPS and DHL. So our rates are, for USPS, the rates are much better than retail rates that you'd get in the store, or that you get in a postal location. It really depends what you're trying to ship though. So for example, first class package rates are the same as commercial based pricing. However, for priority mail, the rates right off the bat are better than commercial based pricing and a little bit under commercial plus pricing. So we offer a strong commercial discount for DHL Express. As I mentioned, just to be clear, the DHL Express account only supports US origin to international destination shipments for the moment. So if you're based out of the US, you'd have to add your own DHL Express account. So it's something that we might be able to offer in the future, but for now, DHL Express rates are only for US origin and international destination. Just to be clear, make sure we're on the same page. For other carriers like FedEx or UPS, we don't have any type of like Shippo Master account there. But if you have your own account, then we can pull your negotiated rates within Shippo. So if you ship more than 1,000 packages per month, definitely feel free to reach out to sales@goshippo.com. And we can also kind of work with you to see, is there anything we can do to optimize your shipping experience and potentially save you some money with your, like how you're designating which packages go which carriers. In general, we love to help our customers. We love to provide advice. So if there's anything that we can do to help make your experience better, to help you save some money, or even just give advice on best practices, then we're standing by and happy to help. So I received a question around, we'll be using UPS only. We will only be paying for labels, or will there be a monthly fee as well? So for UPS and carriers where you're using your own account, so as I mentioned, UPS, FedEx, and others, the carrier will bill you directly, and Shippo will only bill you the 5-cent per label fee. For Shippo accounts like UPS and DHL Express, we'll charge you both for the cost of the label and the per label fee. So the actual cost of the parcel. So if it's a $5 priority mail label, then it would be $5 plus 5 cents for the label. So I received a question around how much it costs. Like, it sounds like it'll cost up to $100 a month just to use the Shippo platform. Is that correct? So it's really a pay-as-you-go model. We don't have subscription fees or sign-up fees. The $100 that I mentioned was, it's all about the frequency of how you get invoiced. So we don't want to be billing you or charging your credit card every time you buy one label. Some customers are buying hundreds of labels per month, and that would obviously be, it would be very difficult to read your credit card statement if you see 1,000 charges from Shippo. So that's why we use an invoice model. And so just to reiterate that, I know it's a little confusing, so happy to clarify. After you pay your first label at after you've received your first invoice, after you've spent $25 on labels, or after 7 days after your first label purchase, it's whatever comes first, that billing threshold goes up to $100. So we'll either bill you every 7 days. So say you paid your first invoice and your billing threshold is now $100. If you then buy one more label for $5 and you don't hit your billing threshold of 100, we'll still only bill you for that $5, but we'll do that after 7 days. So again, it's whichever comes first. So if you hit that billing threshold, that triggers an invoice and we'll charge your payment method on file. Or after 7 days, we'll charge you for the amount of postage that you've accrued. And just to reiterate, Shippo itself only costs 5 cents per label. So someone reached out, I'm curious about label refunds on Shippo. Are you charged only after the label has been fulfilled? So in terms of refunds on Shippo, so you're charged, I just went through when you're actually charged. So when you purchase the label, when you click that buy label button in the order flow, once you get there, we'll actually kind of, that's when the charge is registered with Shippo. When you're actually charged on your payment method is that billing threshold that I was just discussing. And in terms of refunds, I'll show you how to do this in the dashboard, but you can refund a shipment Yeah, so I'll just show you. So here you can see in the shipments tab, which again, I'll go through again, but the shipments tab is where you see all of your orders, all of the labels that you purchased through that order flow that I was just showing you. And in this dropdown on each label, you can see that you can download a label, you can refund the label, or you can create a return label. So when you refund a label, what we do is we send that refund request to the carrier. So each carrier operates slightly differently with how they work, but really the logistics on the back end are pretty similar. We send the request to them. The carrier does their due diligence to make sure that there's no scan events on that label to make sure it hasn't been used. Once they confirm that, they send that info back to Shippo, and we either show you that the refund request has been approved or it's been rejected. And again, that's not a Shippo thing. It's based on the carrier. So based on when we receive back that information from the carrier, we'll then provide that credit to your Shippo account. And so oftentimes this takes about 2 weeks from the processing, or from the time you request the refund. However, it really depends on the response we get back from the carrier. Great. So I'm going to go back into the flow because I want to make sure that I touch on all of this, and then at the end of this flow, we'll go through more questions. So thanks everyone for the questions so far and your patience. I'm trying to answer as many of them as possible, but obviously may not be able to get through all of them. So just to kind of reiterate where we left off, I was showing you that label, also showing you that you can get a packing slip. And additionally, you can send a notification email to your customers. And what we were just talking about is the shipments tab. This is where you can see all your labels created. And as I was mentioning, you can either create a refund or you can create a return label. So just again, to reiterate, once we receive confirmation from the carrier that the label hasn't been used, we'll process the refund back to your Shippo accounts. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to go through is returns. So I'd like to go into some advanced Shippo features. And so the things that we wanted to go through right now are returns, batch label printing, and international shipments. So for US-based customers, you can create USPS return labels free of charge until your customer uses that label. So I was talking about this before, but I wanted to show you the two ways that the two easiest ways to create return labels. So the first was during that initial label creation flow. So once you go into your orders and you pick the order that you want to fulfill, or you manually create an order, you have the option to create a return label. So this would basically be alongside that original outbound shipment. And so just again, to repeat myself, if you regularly insert a return label with every outbound shipment, then I would say this is the easiest way, because you don't need to go through the flow twice. We automatically adjust and reverse the address to and the address from. And so when you get to that final label creation, the final label creation screen, when you successfully generate a label, will give you both that outbound label to send the customer the package, and then we'll also give you that that return label, which will be to get the package from the customer to whatever you deem is the return address. Most people just use that original outbound address, but again, some customers or businesses may have a different return address where they process their returns. So some customers may, however, want to do a return kind of in a one-off basis. So if a customer requests a return and you want to make it really easy for them, you can create a one-off return label for that specific shipment, and then maybe a customer service member or whoever's handling this request can just email the label directly to them. This makes it really easy. They can just print it on an 8.5 by 11 printer, and then just stick that label on the package. And so just as a reminder, to do that, you go to your shipments tab, you'd find that relevant label that you generated for that original outbound shipment, and then you'd click return label. So just to show you what the flow looks like, it's really similar to that generate a label flow that you saw previously. It's just for return shipment. Again, for return labels, the recipient and sender address is automatically swapped. So don't get concerned if you don't need to do any work there in terms of switching the label. So here you can adjust, just like we did with that original outbound label, you can adjust the dimensions, you can also adjust the weight. Use case here would be maybe you ship out all of your items in a box, but you give a Tyvek envelope, or you give some type of a packaging for the customer to ship the package back in. So then you could adjust the dimensions right here, or you can adjust the weight. Maybe you want to subtract the weight of the box so that the shipment's slightly cheaper for that return. So just as a reminder, by default, it pulls the original package dimension and weights. That'll probably work for most use cases, but if it doesn't, just make sure to adjust it. And so right here, when you get to the next step, you can select your shipping options. We currently support 2 UPS return service levels. One is priority mail and one is first class package, but that's only if the package is under 1 pound. That's the max weight that USPS allows. So in this case, since the weight, I think for this package was about 2 pounds, you can see that the only eligible rate was priority mail. And you can see right there next to the name of the service level, it says return. Yep, so here is just what the label looks like. And the good thing about this is that you can see it says priority mail return service. And what that basically indicates is that you're not going to be charged unless the customer actually uses the label. It gets scanned into USPS's system. And so scan-based return labels are only available for USPS, UPS, and FedEx at the moment. And so this is really a great feature because if you want to make the return process easy for your customers, it's not like you're getting charged every time for these shipments. The next functionality I wanted to get into is more of an advanced Shippo feature like batch label printing. This is really great if you have some similar items that you want to fulfill and print labels for at the same time. So the way you do this is you find your orders that are all similar or really for the same, hopefully for the same items or have the same weight. And then in that orders tab, you click that checkbox on the left. And then at the very top, you can see in green, it says create label for selected orders. So once you do that, you're put into a very similar flow like we just showed. And so you can see here that you set the dimensions for 1 box size, and you can either use the imported weight if it's coming from an e-commerce platform or a shopping cart, or you can set the weight. So if you know if you're shipping the same 10 orders for identical shipments, it's going to be in the same packaging, the same weight, then you can do it right here. And you have the same sort of functionalities we just showed. The next page is pretty similar, but it looks a little bit different as you're able to set a different service level based on the shipment. So maybe one of your customers has paid for expedited shipping, then you're able to set the service level at the order level. So you can see the name of the customer and you can pick the corresponding service level. Maybe you want all of them to go priority mail, then you can select that as well, but maybe you want to customize it. So again, it's completely up to you. The final step is you get your shipping labels. So you can either download all the labels in one merged PDF, or if you want to grab them one by one, you can do that as well. You just click each download label. And then the final process that I wanted to go through is international shipments. So as I mentioned, you can create international shipments right through Shippo, and we also simplify the customs forms, and we let you know when it's necessary to have a customs form. This is really confusing, so it seems like a simple thing. However, if you've ever read any carrier documentation, or maybe you've looked at USPS's site to understand, do I need a customs form or not, you'll probably notice that it's not always that easy. For example, APOs, APO addresses is another kind of confusing piece of the puzzle. So we're able to just kind of streamline that for you and let you know when you do need a customs form or not. So you begin just like a regular domestic shipment, and you add your dimensions and weights, and they're imported from your e-commerce site or shopping platform if you have that info there. If not, you just have to enter it yourself. So as you can see here, we have a US shipment going to a Canadian address. After that, after you've added the parcel dimensions, you have your customs declaration. And so this is where you add all of your customs info. You can select your content type. Most often, this will be merchandise, but it really depends what you're actually sending. So depending upon the carrier, you can either send it DDU, and that's when the recipient pays for customs, or DDP, and that's when we would pay for, or when the sender pays for customs. This is not available with all carriers. For example, USPS does not, only supports DDU, where the customer or the recipient pays the custom fees. So if there's additional fields that you need to add, such as exporter or importer number, you can expand the additional options right here. Here's the customs items that really make up the customs declaration. Again, these are going to be imported when they're provided to us, or you can add them one by one. If the info is incorrect, or you don't like how it got imported, you can remove all of the items at once using this feature right here. So within this edit functionality, you can also add things like the SKU code. This is necessary for specific carriers. So DHL e-commerce is a great lower cost carrier that we have that we support for both domestic and international shipments. However, for international shipments, they require the SKU code. So we have this field right here. Also, you can add the tariff number if you had it. That can help with customs as well, so that it's easier for the customs agent to identify and classify what the shipment is. Okay, and then this should look very familiar to you. It's really the same type of flow, and this is where you select your shipping rates. So I wanted to mention that. So I've talked about this a lot, but for U.S. outbound international shipments, we also offer some great discounts with DHL Express that is pretty comparable to USPS Priority Mail International. DHL Express is a great premium international carrier who handles the shipment from pickup to delivery. This means that DHL will work with customs directly to import your shipments, and they'll also have accurate tracking details available for your customers. So one of the benefits here is that they may be able to get the items through customs a little bit faster. Customs can really be, it really depends on the country. Each country has really specific customs requirements, and there's a lot of differences on a country by country level. There can even be differences based on the agent who's processing the shipment. So working with a carrier like DHL Express is a great way to ideally get the package through a little bit faster. So if you do decide to purchase a DHL Express label, you can simply drop off the shipments at any local UPS store. Also on DHL site, you're able to, you can find other drop-off locations there as well. But USPS, again, is another great option to, obviously, any post office, you can drop off your international shipments. Great, so I wanted to pause right here and then take some additional questions that we have. And so I received a question around what information is needed on the e-commerce site to determine shipping. For example, weight. Is it necessary to have an actual package size listed? So it really depends on which e-commerce site you're integrated with and what kind of options they have. If you want all of the information to be imported into Shippo to have the flow be as fast as possible and not have you update dimensions and weights, then I know like a e-commerce site like Shopify has places to put all of this sort of parcel information. However, if you wanted to just give some type of dimensions for the customer to see the actual item, but you don't know what the package is going to be shipped in and what the total weight is, then it's not necessary. It really depends what you're actually looking for. So if you want the, but when you are creating the shipment within Shippo, you do need as accurate as possible package size and weight. That way, that's what we're sending to the carriers, and that's how they're rating the package and providing the price. And for example, as I mentioned, first class package for USPS maxes out at 1 pound. So if you say something is maybe 8 ounces, but it's really 1.5 pounds, then you could run into issues with postal. Also with other carriers such as UPS or FedEx, if you put one set of dimensions and weights, but they're not accurate, they'll scan and weigh and check the dimensions of the packages, and they'll ding your account and upcharge you for the actual weight and dimensions of the package. And there may actually be a fee if the information's inaccurate. So that's something to just keep in mind. So I got a question around return labels. So if we include the return labels, do we get charged for both when printed or only when the return is actually used? So if you're buying the scan-based labels from Shippo, you're only charged the amount of the shipment and the per label fee at 5 cents when the shipment is actually processed and when Shippo receives that scan event from the carrier. So the question is, if the return sender changes box dimensions or weight, will the difference just be applied to our balance? For example, if they don't have the original packaging anymore and use their own. So it really depends on the carrier. As I was mentioning, if you're using UPS or FedEx and some of the other carriers that charge you directly, who are actually scanning the package to get the actual dimensions and the actual weight, then they may be dinging you. And USPS does have plans to do this as well. So I would, so you can kind of, if you want to try to avoid that, you can kind of err on the side of caution, or you can try and provide the customer with some type of guidelines. The other option that I mentioned was that if you have some type of envelope or like a Tyvek envelope that you could put into the packaging, then you know that the customer is always going to ship it back in that. So there was a great question around USPS flat rate envelopes and boxes. And so that's a great thing. I'll definitely add that into the next webinar. So basically the question is, do we support USPS flat rates? And we do support that in the package template dropdown, which is in that first step when you're entering the dimensions. You can pick what your flat rate is. So if you want to use a flat rate envelope, a regional box, a large flat rate box, you just select it right in the dropdown, and you don't need to add any dimensions because those are of course tied to the flat rate. And then you just add the weight of the package. Okay, so looking at more questions. So notification email, is there a way to put USPS tracking number? Can I edit the notification email in the body text? So for now, the notifications are admittedly a little bit basic. It's basically, we just wanted to give you a way to reach out to the customer and let them know that the package has shipped. So we don't have plans in the meantime to add too much customization to that, but it's definitely great feedback, and it's something that we can chat with our product team about. I know you're not the only customer to reach out about this. We definitely want to make sure that we're really building out a great product for you. Right now, a big focus for us is adding more carrier integrations and adding some additional flows to the user interface so that it's more streamlined for you. And so we've been taking a lot of feedback into account, but we'll definitely pass that along to add some more customization options to those notification emails. So I received a question about SurePost. Is SurePost available for UPS on Shippo? Yes, SurePost is available. We also support SmartPost. It takes a little bit of specific setup and configuration in that carrier section. And please note that both for UPS and FedEx, these like UPS and in any service like SmartPost, Mail Innovations, any of those have to be activated by UPS or FedEx on your account. So please make sure they're activated. And then there's also some additional next steps that you need to work on. There should be some info in our help center, support.goshippo.com, or there's that link within our dashboard. And also our support team, support@goshippo.com, is more than happy to help with this. So someone reached out about Webhooks, and they mentioned that they're planning to do a white label integration of Shippo into our existing architecture. How would Webhooks work? And just a quick step back so everyone understands what this means. A white label integration of Shippo is basically using our API to support label generation through your own custom flows. So the customer probably doesn't even know that Shippo exists. Maybe they're just creating a label on your marketplace or something like that. So there's an API webinar next week, but you can see in that API section of Shippo's dashboard that there's a place to put your webhook destination, and then you can also sign up for, you can also sign up for which webhooks you want. There is webhook documentation within our dashboard. If you go to goshippo.com/docs, on the left-hand side, you should see something that says webhooks that has more details. But again, you can feel free to reach out to support if you have webhook specific questions, and myself and my team can help with that as well. Okay, so I got an interesting question, and the question is, I printed a label yesterday, but forgot or wasn't able to mail it. Do I have to reprint the label with today's date? It shows that the label was printed. It shows like the label date or the printed date. So as a best practice, USPS would prefer that all packages are sent the day of the shipment date. That being said, it's not a hard rule, and I'd say most often USPS will accept it if you drop it into a box, like a postal box, either within a post office location or just on the street, depending upon the size of the package. You shouldn't have any problem. Unfortunately, I can't give you a hard rule because it is a bit of a gray area. So if you ever think that you're not going to be able to get to the post office in time, there's no problem dating the shipment date in the future or future dating it. But most often, and more often than not, you're not going to have any issues. But I can't guarantee that because it really depends on the person working at the post office. They might just say that no, we can't handle that shipment. It has the wrong date on it, or that date's passed. Great. So that's all the time we have right now. Something that I wanted to mention is thank you so much for the great questions that everyone sent through and for your time with us today. As we discussed early in the webinar, we'll be hosting a Getting Ready for the Holidays webinar on October 19th, as well as the developer-focused Shippo API webinar next Wednesday, September 20th. We'll be sending out information about both, along with the recording of the webinar to everyone here within the next 2 to 3 business days. If I was not able to get to your question, first, very sorry. We got a lot of questions, awesome engagement, so thank you again so much for that. Please feel free to reach out to our support team. They work Monday to Friday, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Pacific time, and Saturday and Sundays from 9 to 5. And to reach them, just email support@goshippo.com. That's support@goshippo.com. And if you want to add webinar dash in the subject line so our team knows that the question is from the webinar, I'll work to make sure that we get you some answers. And if you have any questions, it's likely that there's a chance that they're answered in the help center. You can reach that at support.goshippo.com, or it's right in the Shippo user interface, right on that left-hand side at the bottom. So thanks everyone so much for your time. Really appreciate it and hope this was useful for you.